So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728, and I made a mistake, I think. I'm not sure. We're gonna see. I bought a fungicide that I thought worked the last time I used it, but it's not a systemic fungicide, which is what I'm in the habit of buying, but maybe I was right, and it's the right type of fungicide to use. But it's a mistake because if I had realized that it was not a systemic fungicide, I would not have gone based on my memory and bought it again. But anyway, I was thinking mistakes are mutations. So for example, when an organism tries to reproduce, part of the genetic code cannot be faithfully reproduced. And you can end up with a mistake. Like if you have a microorganism, for example, when it reproduces, you can have a mistake. And most mistakes are not productive, they're not helpful, and the organism or microorganism ends up dying for whatever reason, or if it's a genetic mistake, for example. I wonder, can we say that Down syndrome is a mistake? It's not something that was meant to happen. Um, but at the same time, yeah, I think we can say that because we're all mistakes, we're all mutations. And some of those mutations have, or a sequence of good mutations have led to us. Some people might go so far as to say that human beings are a mistake, what we're doing with the environment and all this other stuff. But if you look at it from that perspective, then a mistake, many times, most of the times, it's a bad thing. But if we didn't have mistakes, we wouldn't have good mistakes, um, mutations, changes that led to something, an improvement, a benefit in the long or short term. So from that perspective, we can't ever be upset with the mistakes that we make because we had no idea if they would lead to a good thing or not. Most of the time, they're going to lead to a bad thing. You made a mistake and you dropped a glass. Now you have to clean it up. You might step on a shard of glass, end up bleeding, or you make a mistake and you drop some money. And for you, it's horrible and it's a bad thing. It's in the end. But maybe you go back looking for that money and you avoid a problem that you never realized that you avoided. Or you meet somebody that becomes a good friend, or you meet somebody who becomes a good enemy, or a frenemy, or you meet um, this person who becomes your spouse, or the person that you ended up having. You get married and you get divorced, and you know you have a kid who turns out great. You have a kid who turns out horribly. We have no idea. In evolution, of course, um, the good things stack up, right? And the branches of evolution that lead to problems, well, not even problems, they're just not as successful as other branches in some instances. Those branches get pruned, they get overshadowed. The other branches are higher up and shade them and lead to them those branches not being successful and dying off. So, the whole idea, I suppose, about going back in time and fixing the mistakes that we did, like in Back to the Future. Um, Sometimes, well, for one thing, mistakes suggest to us that you shouldn't go down a specific path. So if you don't make the mistake that time, it means that if it's a conscious thing, you're just likely to make it another time because you didn't absorb that experience and use it to shape your future. Maybe it could be a mistake. I remember reading a science fiction book about, and I might have mentioned it. I don't think anybody would ever find where I mentioned it. That's what I'm starting to realize now. I can say things over and over again, and they're probably not going to get picked up on because luckily there's not a lot of people listening to my videos. But I remember a sci-fi book that I read where a guy, for whatever reason, um, he went back to a particular time and he saved a girl. And he found subsequently, when he went back to times after he had saved her, that he would repeatedly find that she was dead and he would have to go back to an earlier time to save her from whatever happened. So, he kept doing that um, a number of times. But one time, when he returned from the past, having saved her, I can't remember why he was going back in time, but he went back in time and having saved her and he looked up her future to see what happened to her, he realized that she had been through a horrible experience, but she was alive. So I guess he didn't go back and save her from that horrible experience. And by chance, um, I think they eventually got together, which is kind of weird, but they did. And she was explaining to him what happened um, when she went through that horrible experience. She had gone through life with this idea that she had a guardian angel because every time something horrible um, was going to happen to her, something or someone intervened. And as it turned out, many times that was him. But the time that she had that horrible experience and he found out afterwards, she realized, luckily enough, in the circumstance, that nobody was coming. This was a time where nobody was coming to save her, and she had to rely on herself. And she learned from that experience, she learned self-reliance from that experience, is what she told him. And I thought, wow, that was just, in a way, such a powerful thing. I mean, in a way, it encapsulates the phrase, what does not kill you makes you stronger. Because all the other times when he actually had to intervene, it had killed her. Those things had killed her. But in this specific time where he intervened, it actually made her stronger. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. Anyway, it's an alternate reality they lived in, and as it turned out, I can't remember the name of the book, but he intervened to tell the president after the Second World War that the Russians, there was going to be a Cold War. So the world that he finally ended up living in with the girl never went through a Cold War because the president of the US at the time um, made the necessary changes, so that never happened. It was a really cool book. Anyway, um, back to what I was saying though. Yeah, every single mistake has to be treasured because mainly if you forget about mutations, um, you learn the most from your mistakes because they hurt. They are thorn. They are painful. They make you realize not that way. We're not doing that. Or remember, success is about not failing. There's a lot of different ways that I've heard it. Well, for example, if you pour a glass of water, the idea is you go too far, you come back. You go too close, you come back. And it's a succession of trying not to fail is what leads to success. To me, it's an interesting topic that I like spending time thinking about sometimes. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks. Peace.